In the 19-teens, black educator Booker T. Washington persuaded Julius Rosenwald, the president of Sears, Roebuck Company, to provide matching grants to build schools for rural African Americans in the South. Thousands were in place by the 1930s. They replaced outdated buildings like the Bethesda Schoolhouse, which originally stood on Alexandriana Road in Mecklenburg County. The Rosenwald schools followed standard plans. All featured large windows to let in lots of light. To view more examples of Rosenwald school plans, please visit www.rosenwaldplans.org. North Carolina had more Rosenwald schools than any other state, about 800. George E. Davis was supervisor of Rosenwald buildings in North Carolina. His house still stands near Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte. Davis was a tireless fundraiser. He crisscrossed the state by automobile. He persuaded African Americans to donate land and to help build Rosenwald schools. Several Rosenwald school buildings survive in Mecklenburg County. Many of them, such as the forlorn Salome School, are in disrepair and rotting away due to years of neglect. Dr. Tom Hanchett of the Museum of the New South is a published expert on Rosenwald schools.
Washington already had an idea for rural schools. So many folks had come out of slavery, they had gone into tenant farming, sharecropping, they were very isolated in the countryside. Could you have a school that would not only educate but would bring people together? And he had begun to build some of those down in Alabama when Mr. Rosenwald showed up, and together they created a program that was a major model for how to do good in the world. It's something we still do. It's the notion of matching grants. Rosenwald put up about a third of the money to build a school, put up some of the expertise, things like school plans that you can see here. So he put up that, but then the local African American community had to raise money, often contributed land, often helped build the school, sweat equity we now call it. And then the local school system, which was always dominated by white folk, had to run the school. And so you got a three-way partnership.
Listen as Mr. James Polk, a former student of the Billingsville Rosenwald School, shares some of his memories of his time spent there and his teachers.
I started there in first grade, and it was a good experience. The teacher would have, say, first grade to recite and go through its thing and then move to the next class. So it worked out very well. And of course, if you were in the first grade and going to the second grade, if you were attentive, you could then learn something about that was going to come up when you go to grade 2. So it was a good experience for those who really wanted to learn. But if you were in that school at that time, you were going to learn some things.
So the schools really became community centers, and the teachers would live nearby. Someone who went to a Rosenwald school once told me that the teachers were teachers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They were really the community leaders. So those people are very powerful and very well remembered in their communities.
Oh, we played baseball, football, almost any sport that you could name. We would have a bit of that. Wrestling, boxing, and all of that. So the recess periods were very lively and entertaining times in grade school. But you didn't have that much time. Again, it was limited, and you would look forward to it because you got to come back after recess and go back to work, back to study.
It is a tribute to the power of those buildings that they have often lived on as community centers. Churches adopted them, neighborhood groups adopted them, seniors adopted them as community gathering places. And so the Rosenwald schools have not at all outlived the usefulness that Booker T. Washington imagined for them to bring us together.
We have lost so many Rosenwald schools. They often fall into neglect and eventual ruin. A case in point is the Siloam Rosenwald School off Mallard Creek Church Road in University City. You can almost hear the voices of the children as they scampered onto the playground. The Rosenwald schools need to be preserved as symbols of accomplishment and attainment by the African American people.